that has defeated Sanskrit scholars since the 5th century BC has finally been solved by an Indian PhD student at the University of Cambridge. Rishi Rajpopat made the breakthrough by decoding a rule taught by Panini, known as the father of linguistics, and is now encapsulated in his thesis entitled "In Panini, We Trust: Discovering the Algorithm for Rule Conflict Resolution." So this is a big breakthrough that's come in from a student, an Indian student currently pursuing PhD in the University of Cambridge, and certainly being spoken across the world and being discussed in detail on what is it that perhaps led to this breakthrough. We're talking about Rishi Rajpopat, PhD candidate at the Cambridge University, who solved a long-standing grammar problem in the Ashtadhyayi, which is a Sanskrit text written by the scholar Panini, this around the 6th or the 5th century BC. Now remember, if we talk about Ashtadhyayi, and Rishi will be joining us in just a few seconds. The Ashtadhyayi, of course, comprises of 4,000 sutras. It explains the science behind Sanskrit, has often been compared to the Turing machine due to its complex set of rules for creating words, and that's what Rishi has cracked. Let me quickly, without wasting any time, go across to him. Rishi, thank you for taking out your time and speaking to us here on Times Now. First of all, many congratulations, but I want to begin by asking you, what is it that inspired you to take up this subject, a subject that's left many scholars perplexed for so many decades altogether?
So thank you very much for your wishes, and thank you for having me. Well, I came to Panini by accident, actually. So I had studied Sanskrit in high school, and I went to this Navratri Pandal during the summer of my 12th class. And I met someone there, and they told me that there's this teacher who happened to live very close to where I did, who teaches Panini. So that's how I started going to the class. And when I was doing Panini, when I was studying his grammar with my teacher, I realized that there were very many parts of the technical functioning of the grammar that either she could not explain to me as clearly as I have liked, or sometimes she very honestly told me that she doesn't know the answer to that. So I started looking in the books to see if I can find a satisfactory solution to some of the problems that I thought existed. And surely enough, I couldn't. So I would say that is what brought me to think that if no one's found it yet, I suppose I should jump in and see if I can make any contributions.
So it's your curiosity that perhaps led you to this big breakthrough. Rishi, simplify it for us. The Ashtadhyayi text by Panini consists of a series of rules for deriving new words from the root word. Now, what is the problem that many were facing for the longest time in really understanding this concept, and how is it that you cracked it?
So one of the biggest challenges was actually over these 2,500 years is that a lot of people thought that there was no problem and things were good the way they were. But the fact is that often, as you said, when you try to derive a grammatically correct form, starting with the root and the suffix, what happens is you're supposed to apply rules over a series of steps. So you apply one rule at each step, and then you've got multiple such steps. What happens is that at a certain step, very often, two rules become simultaneously applicable. Now, the question is, which of these two simultaneously applicable rules do you choose? Or put differently, there occurs a conflict between these two rules. And how do you resolve this rule conflict? So in his grammar, Panini has taught us just one rule, which helps us resolve this rule conflict. In other words, which helps us pick one of these two rules. But that one rule had been misinterpreted right from the time the first commentary on this grammar was written, all the way up to almost very recently, shall we say. And so, yeah.
And now you're telling us that Panini's language machine may now be taught to computers as well for the first time. That's so big in itself, thanks to your efforts.
So now that we've got a very simple algorithm which is teachable, we can use the algorithm to teach the grammar to the computer. That's correct. Until now, the challenge was that the so-called system that was being used to run the grammar was so complex that it was hardly understandable to humans, let alone humans being able to teach it to the computer. And that has changed now.
Okay. And you think the interest in Sanskrit per se is also growing, and in that sense this breakthrough will further revolutionize the study of Sanskrit at this crucial juncture this language is seeing?
Well, I certainly do think that interest in Sanskrit is growing both in India and elsewhere. So, I mean, I'm not a fortune teller, but I do certainly hope that this discovery will inspire students to really explore what our ancestors, our civilizational ancestors, shall we say, have written, and dig out more such secrets. You know, I'm sure there's more waiting to be discovered.
Okay, all right. Now tell us about the journey, because the viewer today wants to understand how is it that you cracked it all. And I also read somewhere that it took you 9 long months before you finally reached the breakthrough moment. You were quite frustrated, disappointed somewhere in the middle. So what is it really that worked out for you?
So as you said, I spent 9 months at Cambridge during the first year of my PhD. I was really trying desperately to find some kind of solution, and yet I got absolutely nothing. So then I decided, okay, it's summertime and a lot of people are going to go away, and I was going to stay in Cambridge that summer. I decided to completely withdraw myself from work for a month because I was exhausted. So I needed to refuel myself firstly, but also because I thought some distance would help. And perhaps when I would go back thereafter, I would be able to approach the subject from a fresh perspective or through a new prism, if you will. And but even after that 1 month ended, I was not really keen on going back, but I had to, and I did so begrudgingly. Once I did go back, I opened the first notebook in that stack of notebooks on my table. I started flipping the pages, and lo and behold, my prayers were answered, shall we say. And I observed a pattern almost immediately. Now that pattern was essentially the big breakthrough. And within minutes, I knew that I had what I needed, not just to complete my PhD, but more importantly, to solve this big and, shall we say, extremely challenging problem.
Okay. I'm sure you're also quite wondering as to what is it that prompted in you, the sign to catch on to this ultra confusion that everyone has been facing the past so many years, but it had to come your way. Rishi, thank you so much for taking out your time and speaking to us. You continue to make us proud. We need to quickly shift our focus to more news we're tracking this afternoon. So